During this year's National Day rally speech, Prime Minister Lee announced housing policy changes that benefit queer Singaporeans so marginally that it's actually kind of lame.
There's one special group I want to address: the singles. Singles will be allowed to buy two-room flexi flats across all types of BTO projects. I'm sure singles will welcome this move to have more choices, to find your own home, and to write your own part in Singapore's housing story.
Oh my, what will we do without the little crumbs that you so generously sprinkle down on those of us who aren't allowed to eat at the table? To be fair, the housing policy changes that PM Lee announced do benefit queer people in Singapore, but I think we know crumbs when we see them. With about 80% of Singaporeans living in public subsidised flats, we are at the mercy of HDB's housing policies. And these policies in Singapore are extremely hostile to same-sex couples. Hi, my name is Yu Sheng and I run Hacking Unicorn, and today let's talk about the housing challenges that LGBTQ+ people face in Singapore and why the latest changes to housing policies really don't do that much for us. Before we begin, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Nobody. If you like our content and would like to support us, please consider buying our merch. Hacking Unicorn is a small queer brand based in Singapore, and we design and sell things like enamel pins, beanies, earrings, backpacks, sling bags, socks, and more. We also try to do more than just create cute pride merch. We're vocal about queer issues in Singapore, and we have spoken up about issues such as anti-LGBT fake signs, discrimination in schools, conversion therapy, and more. Anyway, back to the video. Housing policies in Singapore penalise same-sex couples tremendously. To begin with, queer couples are administratively treated as singles because same-sex marriage is illegal here and explicitly voided under the Women's Charter. And being classified as singles has serious consequences. And just as a side note, right, singles don't just include like queer people or queer couples. They include actual single people, widowed people, orphans, and so on. And some of these other groups have different eligibility requirements when it comes to housing. So when it comes to buying a flat, there are two options. You can either buy a new flat directly from HDB, aka BTO flats, or you can buy a second-hand flat in the resale market. Let's talk about BTOs first. BTOs are the most heavily subsidised housing in Singapore. But queer couples need to be both at least 35 years old in order to buy a BTO flat. And let me repeat, both of them have to be at least 35 or older. In comparison, straight couples only need to be 21 years old, which means that they get up to 14 years of head start in home ownership. That's an insane time penalty given to queer couples. But that's not all. Same-sex couples are only allowed to buy the smallest two-room flexi flats. And to give you a sense of how small two-room flats are, they are about 36 to 46 square meters in size, which is about 3 to 4 parking lots in a typical HDB car park. Now I know that some of you out there live in luxurious black and white bungalows with land areas of like over 23,000 square meters, so you're probably struggling really hard to understand how small two-room flats are. But don't worry, here's a quick visualization that can help you out. Okay, so this land area here represents about 23,164 square meters of land. You know, a completely random number. If we start here and then we zoom in a bit, what we'll see here is not a two-room flat. This is actually an entire neighborhood of HDB blocks. Okay, so if we zoom in some more, and here we are here, this is still not a two-room flat. This is an entire HDB block. But if we keep zooming in more and more and more, finally, this is about the size of a two-room flat. It's about 0.15% the size of a 23,000 square meter plot of land. I hope that this visualization is helpful for some of our political elites. Now in the past, queer couples could only buy BTO flats in non-mature estates, which are generally less developed or have less amenities. The recent National Day rally announcement made it such that queer couples can buy two-room BTOs from any estate. Like, that is literally all that has changed. Imagine we're in a canteen, right, and the PAP government announces that, wow, singles and queer couples can now sit anywhere they wish to sit, instead of only being allowed to sit at the most inconvenient seats. But we're still only given the smallest plates of food, and we still have to queue outside the canteen for up to 14 years before we can even enter. Like, do you seriously think that you're being so generous here? You're literally dusting off crumbs and then applauding your own effort. Okay, let's talk about resale flats now. Just like BTOs, queer couples still need to be at least 35 years old in order to buy a resale flat, because f us, I guess. And because resale flats are sold in an open market, the prices tend to be much higher compared to BTO flats. But just how much higher, you might ask? Based on HDB's own press statement in November 2022, comparable resale flats could cost between 25 to 179% more than a BTO flat of the same size in the same estate. And this is true across a wide range of housing estates. And let me just say this again, this is based on HDB's own press statement. So if you want to profma me, right, you better profma them as well. And of course, HDB's numbers are merely illustrative, but they clearly demonstrate that resale flats cost substantially more than BTOs. On top of that, queer couples also face extra restrictions, such as being banned from buying prime location public housing flats. To summarize, same-sex couples are only allowed to buy HDB flats 14 years after their straight counterparts, can only buy the smallest BTO flats or pay substantially more in a resale market, and then face extra restrictions. However bad you think the housing situation is in Singapore, queer couples have it 10 times worse. And this is not just like, one or two things, it's a systemic penalisation of queer couples here, and the effects are severe. More needs to be done to give queer Singaporeans a fair chance at home ownership so that we can feel like we truly belong in this country. Housing is incredibly important to all of us because it provides us with a safe space to rest and live in. Unfortunately, a disproportionate amount of queer Singaporeans here live with family members who may be abusive or hostile towards their queer identity. Scientist research during the 2020 COVID-19 lockdown revealed that about 20% of queer people live in hostile family environments. And this is something that media outlets don't really talk about. To the most vulnerable queer Singaporean, housing isn't just an aspirational milestone, it's a necessity if they wish to just feel safe at home. At this point, I would like to speak directly to our dearest elected PAP politicians, especially those of you who live in plots of land larger than our HDB neighbourhoods. Please understand our struggles, and please understand that our collective frustration at your housing policies have been building up for decades. You may have failed us, but there is still room for redemption. Many opposition parties have already suggested housing policy changes that will benefit single and queer persons, so I'm sure you'll understand why they are attractive options for a lot of us. I will end this video with a short interview clip of one of your esteemed colleagues, with the hope that it will spark inspiration and action.
You mentioned LGBTQ. The fact is, they live in Singapore peacefully. No discrimination against work, housing, education.
No discrimination against housing.
Can you imagine this guy was in the running to be our next Prime Minister? Like, is he fucking stupid or just incompetent? Anyway, thank you for watching, and please share and like and subscribe and follow and all the good stuff. And to all the queer people in Singapore, stay safe, stay strong, and stay loved.